Okay, let's start that again. All right. So I'm David. I'm your homeowner, brother. This episode.
I'm Andrew. That's it.
That's all you got?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Jeremy.
I thought you looked at Andrew there like you forgot what you were supposed to say. I was going to be like, your name.
We didn't
But
have anything.
This is where
Well,
your
there's
name.
a pause. 'Cause I thought more was coming.
Yeah.
Just Andrew. But
Just Andrew, and I'm just Jeremy.
Just Jeremy.
Well, I was gone last week, so I'm just gonna keep it simple. I'm back.
Andrew's back in.
Yeah.
And
I'm just sitting in a chair.
yeah. And I own a house now, which is cool. My wife and I are 3 days into home ownership.
They signed their life away.
We did.
Now's
We
when
signed
everything
it.
starts breaking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was funny though because there's this little, I don't know what you call it, but it's like there's a section of the house that has like the laminate flooring, and then a section of the house that has like the laminate wood next to carpet. So there's like that little cap thing, you know, that like bridges the gap
bridge the
between
gap.
the carpet and the.
They call that a gapper in the
We
biz.
call that a bridge
biz.
gapper.
Yeah.
That's what we call it. And yeah, the first day that we walked in there, like I was walking between the kitchen to the living room, and it kind of like popped up, and I was like, "Oh crap!" Like it's already.
You're
started.
like, sell it back.
So get
We're
rid of the
done.
house.
Is this
I'm
a
over
30-day
it.
return policy? Or
Exactly.
this?
Can this get me out of it? This should have come up on the
Yeah.
Should have
inspection.
came up on the inspection. You didn't check
Yeah.
all those?
But it's fine. That flooring is probably
You're gonna go back like in a couple of days, and all the gappers are gonna be up.
all the gappers. That floor is probably has its days numbered anyway.
Yeah, okay.
If my wife has anything to say about it, so
Yeah, I feel like we've been on the outside of this as you're going through this process,
Yeah.
and I keep checking. I talked with Rachel just today, and like, you know, you gotta. It's a process to keep the wife relieving stress through this process, because like they just want all the projects done.
they do.
And so it's like, at least in the initial phase, it's like, okay, what can we manage?
Yeah.
And what can we space out?
You have
and
that
like,
balance.
yeah.
Like me, I would just.
Because otherwise it can weigh on them.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we're in that stage now. Like we're trying to get everything painted and fixed, or at least a lot of it done before we move in next week. And well, by the time you're hearing this, we'll have moved in. But we're trying to paint and get everything done before that. And it's definitely overwhelming because like we sit down to make the list of all the things we'd like to do before
Yeah.
we move in, and you're like, that is long.
You're not going to get to like
And
Not really possible.
yeah,
Yeah.
not really possible. So we are, we're happy and you're stressed out. You're all that stuff all at the same time.
And you're basically moving back to the old neighborhood.
We are. We ended up, God is incredibly good and in ways you don't always expect, because we wanted to move back to the old town that we grew up in, that I grew up in, I should say. But kind of not a big town. There's not a lot of houses that like go up for sale in it.
Very limited.
Yeah, just limited in a lot of ways in terms of how to buy it.
Well, it's like really weird dynamic where there's a lot of historic homes and then
Yeah.
a lot of brand new homes.
Yes.
Like not much in between.
Yes. And we didn't go in with like a huge budget or anything. It's our first house. So we were, not necessarily, we were hopeful, but not expecting to really find one in there. And then we ended up getting one about a street over from the house that us three brothers grew up in, which was highly
Right around the
unexpected.
corner.
Yeah.
the house is up for sale now.
Oh no, not the one that we bought. Yes,
No, but
our
the other one
parents'
down
old
the-
house.
Yeah, our old parents' old house.
Yeah. Which my parents moved out of. Our parents moved out of just a few years ago. Somebody else is getting ready to move out of it too, but maybe one of us will buy it now. We'll see.
I'm not buying it. Actually, it wouldn't be bad.
Yeah. I'm set for
It's a good
while.
house. Yeah.
It was a good house. It worked really well.
Yeah. But
Good yard.
That was the best part of it. Good
yard's
yard.
great.
So we really like the house in a lot of ways. It's more than we expected to get and nicer than we expected to get. That being said, we still have to paint the entirety of it. So that is going to get done this week. Andrew's back on the podcast this week.
Yep.
Andrew's back after getting he got a win this week. His soccer team got a win.
Finally. Yeah.
how'd that
They went through a
run
tough
forward?
spot.
We had a tough beginning of the year, and now we're kind of in the second half. So
into the league play more now.
League play. We took care of business, so we should be in a good shape there. So.
How many years have you coached now?
5 head coach and then 2 assistant prior to that.
7 years.
So,
That really,
Assistant to the coach.
that really has been a long time.
To the coach, yeah.
Assistant to the head
No,
coach.
it has been a long time, and that's where, it's like now that we have Lincoln, who's into everything now, it's like I don't know. I mean, we'll see at what point.
Yeah, I tell you what, though, it's great.
Things transition towards him more.
See him with videos of him like at the games and stuff is cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you should share those with our listeners.
He gets really
Yeah.
excited. Yeah,
They all
like he
wanna see
loves
it.
to watch, and like he's just sucked into it.
Yeah.
He gets excited. Like when people are cheering and stuff for goals, like he's just all
He's
over
loving
it.
it.
Yeah.
Man, you just got to keep him there. Don't get rid of it. He's gonna jump into soccer soon enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now if you just keep coaching from now until Lincoln's in high school at the same school,
Yeah.
then you can guarantee your son will get a spot on the team.
He'll have a varsity
That's true.
spot.
Exactly.
And I can guarantee he will be he'll probably be. I mean,
he could be at least average.
Yeah.
He won't be the worst one on the team.
I mean,
Probably.
Yeah,
Kaylee
you can
played
make sure
soccer. I was, decent at soccer.
Yeah.
So he at least has an above average chance to be something.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Watch him just come out and like hate soccer. And
That'd be-
like
That's what I
he's-
was thinking. Actually,
Yeah.
it's like, I do
like,
this all.
he wants to be an
life
ice
growing
skater.
up.
It's like
He wants to be an ice skater.
What's wrong with that, Andrew? Some of our listeners might be ice
nothing
skaters.
is wrong with that, but I would like him to follow my passion.
You wouldn't want him to play for the Columbus Blue Jackets
Well,
one day.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Andrew and I are united that we would probably want our sons to play golf
Oh,
if
I'd
they're
be
going to
all
play
over
sport,
that.
or daughters. To be fair,
Yeah.
like if my kids are into athletics, I would totally try to get them into golf.
As far as if you were going to make a career out of any of them, oh man.
It's perfect for you
Yeah.
if your wife is constantly worried about your kids getting injured too.
Yeah.
Fantastic sport. for
Very
you.
low probability of that.
Yes. Yeah. Very, very low.
Faith is already worried about that, given my propensity.
The
to
only
get hurt
the
over
only
years. He
negative
hits his head on
the only
everything.
negative to
Yeah.
it is like it is an expensive sport
Mm-hmm.
to keep up with. Like that and like hockey, like you're saying, like hockey's expensive.
You got to buy ring time and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
My kids,
All the
just-
gear and
Soccer is relatively inexpensive.
yeah.
'Cause, like,
you just
every
need
community
shoes and,
has it.
and tiny little cardboard pieces that
Yeah.
go over your shins.
And every community has soccer.
Yeah, it's pretty cheap.
It's like you got to
Yeah.
go around to find the other ones.
Yeah. But sitting down today on a Sunday feels like a long time since we sat down. At least
4 weeks.
I don't
3 or
know.
4 weeks.
What
This is all-
studio
Yeah.
are we in? We're in studio 4 or 5.
this might have been 4.
Back to my basement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Might be our best studio in a way.
As
But
far as sound quality, I think
it might be
it's up there.
We got our technology problems, I think, figured out. So we are back to having actual microphones to record. And let's hope that the computer doesn't explode by the end of this. Which actually, at some point, I should probably plug it in so that it
Should
has.
probably have battery.
Yeah, that's an oversight on my part. But we're sitting down.
What are you talking about today?
Well, we're going to talk about something that kind of comes out of the last episode we released, where Jeremy and I sat down at very spur of the moment to talk about money. I don't know. Jeremy, would you say our last conversation started out about money?
I think it started out that way, and then it started more about having generosity and giving.
Yeah.
I don't know. It
'Cause
kind of went on its own little monster.
It did, yeah. And we also sat down. You probably heard us say this on the last episode, but at the beginning of it, we were like, this will probably be like 20, 25 minutes. And then we talked for like 45 minutes and probably still had more things we could have said, but we just felt like this needs to be wrapped up.
Yeah, so we didn't have a clear outline of what we wanted to do. You could
No.
you could have probably heard us like for hours talking.
That was
about
the
it.
most rambling pod that we've done.
But it was all constructive, I think. It
Yeah.
all fit within a broad spectrum of what we were talking about.
Yeah, because I think we just both had this feeling of here's an interesting topic and something that we both want to learn more about, which is how do we become more generous and not let fear of, oh, that's a lot of money I'm giving away, or it doesn't make perfect sense or something. How do we live trusting in God's promises enough that we can be proactively generous, even though the world around us doesn't live that way, and at times it might even fly in the face of quote unquote responsibility. So today we're going to sit down and talk about stewardship. which is the sermon that people in churches always want to skip because it's normally the sermon
How to give more?
Were you talking about giving?
Exactly.
Stewardship. Now put your offering check.
Exactly. So let's start talking about stewardship. We're going to talk about it in a few different ways. But first off, let's just talk about money because that's where we kind of left last
Do you want
episode.
to define what money is during Webster's dictionary?
Money, as defined by Webster's dictionary, that's a callback. We
I
just
know.
did
I
a
was going back to
callback.
our roots.
I wonder what episode that was.
Probably like one or
Yeah.
half of one.
Yeah, according to Webster's dictionary, money is
Something you spend.
yes, exactly. That's it. So
In exchange for goods or services.
exactly, Andrew, you weren't in on the last pod. So do you have like opening thoughts about?
Did you listen to the last pod?
He might not have. He's been
I
busy.
did not. I was. We were out of town.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
To be fair, I didn't really listen to your guys's.
It's okay.
I love you guys, but
Jeremy just doesn't care if he's not talking.
I just like hearing myself talk.
I just know the people enjoy it, and that's fine.
That's right.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
So-
for you guys.
And like we recap and like we talk all the time, so like
It's
I know
true.
what you guys were talking about. So
Yeah,
yeah.
he gets the condensed version
Yeah.
of it.
He had to go through the 5-minute spiel, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. What do you guys think about more the idea of stewardship, and how it applies to money? What kind of thoughts does that spark in you?
I mean, the first thought is just like it is. I mean, it's a commandment that we are to be good stewards.
Yeah.
First and foremost. So like, it's something that you should not just. I don't know. I think a lot of times we just give lip service to it, and we're like, we still go through our lives day to day, and yet actually putting it under the lens of like, am I being a good steward of what God has blessed me with? That usually is something where like we give lip service to, but don't actually examine.
Yeah.
I would say for most people.
Jeremy's got a look on his
I
face.
have a question, but
What?
go on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go
I
ahead.
was gonna jump off what you were saying.
So like it's like it's something like that where that is something, and especially in now my new life phase with a young boy and a marriage.
Congratulations.
I've learned that stewardship has shifted and like taken on a whole new phase to that as well. So I think there's two pieces to that.
Yeah.
I think where it's like, are we actually paying attention and do we take that actual seriously, or is it just like something where we check off the list of, I give to my church, I've got my tithe taken care of. I'm trying to avoid debt wherever I can. So I think I'm pretty good as far as stewardship goes. And I'm not putting myself in trouble, but like what beyond that can we really get to a different level?
I was gonna ask what you kind of alluded to it, but so what would a good steward be? A steward, not steward.
I was gonna say, good steward.
I figured that was
a
going
good
to be.
steward.
I kind of thought that was going to be the follow up, and I was
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
oh,
that's
man.
just kind of if we're gonna say, okay, I'm being a good steward, or we've all heard
Yeah.
sermons on it. What does that entail? Like you and I talked last time, David, about being faithful with what you have. So what does that look like? Is that only giving your 10%? Is that
Yes.
more above and beyond? Or is that even potentially in some situations not being able to, is giving as much as you can?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me
ahead.
field that one, and then
Yeah,
I want to
and then-
circle back around to the other thing that Andrew talked about at the end, which is the new stage of life,
Yeah.
doing it with more than just yourself. I think that to be a good steward is to be able to look God in the Bible in the eye and say, I believe I've managed this well.
That's pretty. Yeah.
Because like Andrew said, stewardship might be something we talk about in the church a lot, and but how many of us actually could look at where our money goes, and the other ways that we'll talk about later, but specifically where our money goes? How many of us could look at it and say, I really am proud of where my funds are going, the things that God gives me, because to be a steward is not to own, but to manage.
And that's like not just in certain aspects. Like,
Yeah.
yes, I could be doing a lot of good things,
Yeah.
but then I could also have bad things in there as well. So it's like
Yeah,
across
exactly.
the board, are you happy?
Exactly. Yeah. Like it's not it's not as easy, like Andrew said, well, I do give to my church, 10% or even 10.5%. So I'm doing well. And I even do that off of my pre-tax income.
Yeah, and I'm not putting my family in debt and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah. So it has to be more than that. It has to be a whole lifestyle that like you're, not only are you giving to your church, but you're also giving outside of the church to people who are in need. And you also can look at your budget and say, I'm not just wasting tons of money on stuff that is no good or doesn't matter or doesn't build anything up. Now, we should still enjoy the things that God gives us. 1 Timothy 6, the same passage that talks about the love of money being the root of all evil. It also talks about God giving us all things to enjoy.
Yeah.
So there's a balance there of like, we can still buy, you don't just have to like buy beans, like the beans and the ramen and like the necessities. Like you can still buy lemonade or beer. Like you don't have to buy like the junkiest car on the lot. You can buy a car that you do enjoy.
Yeah.
But I think at its root, being a good steward, a way to test yourself is just be like, could I look at God in the face and say, I really do think my money's going overall in good places,
Going to kingdom building.
good percentages are going to good places.
Yeah.
I don't know, and that's kind of a scary question because I don't know that I'd be able to say that's me.
Can I look God like it's sort of what you said again? Like, can I look God in the face and say that I think I manage things well? Like
how he would do it.
How
I look at my money.
Obviously, we can't manage things perfectly, but like as close as I can to that standard, as far as and that really is like it's a daily focus, I think too. And a monthly focus as far as I don't know. I mean, we all tend to like budgeting and all that and keeping ourselves accountable, and that is a good idea too. At least like if you're trying to start out and you've never really fleshed out this concept before, then the first standpoint to get to would be, okay, look at a month's budget. And like, well, look at what you're spending.
Or look back at the last month.
Look at what you spent. And that would be a good way to at least initially get your ideas of like, okay, where can I build more margin into my life so that I could do more good things? Right. And then where am I potentially putting in just bad expenses?
Andrew's bringing up all the good topics for us to turn. So I don't want to forget any of these.
Well, and that's the part you can also say, okay, we do certain things that we enjoy, but are we maximizing the things we both enjoy? Like you had talked about as a married couple, working in the fact of, because it's much easier to do this as single guys.
Oh, it's so much easier.
Guys like, oh man, I got a paycheck. I can eat beans and noodles this week, and I just put all the money in savings. I don't have to worry about it.
Well, like as a single guy, it's just like you have a few concerns. You're just like, okay, I got my money, my bills are taken care of,
and I'm
giving to the church. And you know what? I feel like I'm going
to get some takeout.
I feel like going to a crew game, and then I'm going to go out to eat before the crew game. I'm going to go to the crew game.
Mom, I want wings.
I'm going to get I'm going to get food at the crew game. I'm going to hang out after the crew. Like, it doesn't matter because nobody else has a claim to your money there. And whenever you get married, you now have, like we said in one of our last episodes, you now have somebody who has a legitimate claim to your life as much as you do. That's what you sign up for when you get married, is that you sign yourself in the best way, and oftentimes the most grueling way. You sign yourself up to lay down your life for the people that are now your family.
And that's true too, is like when you look at your picture as a whole, as far as like budgeting and stuff like that, because there's certain things as far as there's been discussions between me and Kaylee about certain things that like I wouldn't for myself.
Oh, I'm shocked.
I would not spend money on.
I would not put money on.
Real quick, just to be clear, all of us, and I think any married person listening to this podcast right now, I think we would all raise our hands and say, yes, my spouse and I have had mismatched
discussions on money.
Like there are times when our budgets would look different.
And there's certain things where she chooses to spend, our collective pot of money on things that I necessarily, if it was for myself, would not make that same decision. But then if I'm looking as the family well-being as a whole, and are we being good stewards, I also have to see the benefits that she's taking away, like we say, as far as enjoyment of life, as far as building her up, and what she's passionate about,
and what she's doing,
and what she likes to do. And so I need to make route for that. And I need to have enough margin so that there is some of that where she can probably look into the same way on my life where like I spend certain things that she wouldn't for herself.
Yeah.
And that's where when it just becomes to a whole nother level whenever you add in a partnership like that.
Totally teaches you how to negotiate. Sounds like a business word, but like negotiate in a good way of like, okay, like recognizing here are my priorities, here are your priorities.
Yeah.
We've got to first decide what are the priorities we share as a married couple, and what are the priorities we want our family to be known as, and we want to agree on those, and then we want to put those at the top of the list,
Right.
and we want to put the money towards those, and then if we get past those priorities, okay, now we can fill in these other ones.
These
Well,
other
and
ones.
that's
And then you can also prioritize too of like, okay, maybe when you actually flesh these things out with your spouse, like, yeah, you might come to the fact that maybe hers does mean a little more to her than yours does to you.
Yeah.
And that's
You
where
gotta sacrifice.
Yeah, like you have to make sacrifices of like, okay, this is probably something that she for her enjoyment, for her well-being, like I need to prioritize her above myself. So yeah.
No, that's where you had talked about making. We had gone through one night and talked about, like, okay, what is our family? What are things that qualities going back to when we started dating that we enjoyed about each other? Like service to others was a big thing. Like the first time Faith and I hung out was actually, I don't know if this made it to the last recordings or not.
It did, but say it again.
Was us actually helping a friend move, which we didn't know either of us were going to be at.
That's a pretty lame first date.
It's
Well, it
meat
wasn't really a
cute.
date.
Is that a-
Hung
is that
out.
a
It was one of the
meat-
first
a
times we
meat
ever
cute?
hung out for like an
I'm
entire
kidding.
day.
I'm kidding.
And a few times it kind of
Hey, you want to go with me to help me move?
help move this couch? You have a trailer. in the truck.
Please
I just have, I just have the ability to lift heavy objects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wanted to look really strong in his first date.
Smart.
It worked.
Yeah.
Smart.
Obviously. But so we okay, like service to others, hospitality. We both had families that grew up with other people coming over whenever they wanted or needed and stayed with our family. And generosity. Like, okay, these are what we want to build into our family. So how do we make decisions based on that? Not just on a whim, but actually build into that. Well, that might mean spending kashish, which is not easy. Like buying gym equipment, like we found a great deal, but it also builds the ability we can both work out or have other people come to our house to work out and hang out in.
I think now's a great time to introduce our sponsor for this episode. Andrew, do you want to tell people about Dave Ramsey?
I was going to say Jeremy's Gym for Muscles.
Oh no.
Right now it's a free membership.
It's a free membership.
Very,
come in
it's
and-
great for the budget.
Just reach
No.
out to Jeremy. You can go work out with him.
But
Hey, come on over.
Jeremy's Gym for Muscles.
I just said that because the
LLC.
budget talk earlier in the episode. But
Yeah.
um,
No, we do like Dave
Every
Ramsey.
dollar.
yeah, he's all right. You know.
He has some good,
Don't
he has
go
some
into
really
debt.
Good principles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think one thing that's interesting with all this, like we go back to the idea of what being a steward means. To be a steward, like in the parable of the faithful stewards, right? Where the owner gives the talents to his servants, and he gives a lot to one, he gives a little bit to another, he gives less to the third one.
Yeah.
And it's what they do to use those things according to how the master would do them. And to be a steward is to be a manager. And if you're a manager, you are taking on the priorities of the owner. So that's what it is to be a steward. And we have to look at our finances and say like, okay, do the priorities reflected in my budget, do those actually reflect priorities that God himself would have?
That's good.
And that's not easy.
No, it's
And-
definitely not.
And I can speak only for Rachel and I. Before we got married, we totally both would have said, yeah, that's what we want to do. Of course, that's what we want to do. But probably like, I don't know that we really do that great yet. Like, I think we'll start learning, which is awesome. That's why grace exists. God is faithful to keep teaching us, and we don't have to have it all figured out, day one. But it's really true, because you get married and stuff, and you get into life, and then you just picture like, this will be easy. I've already got my budget made. But then like life kind of hits you. You get distracted sometimes. Needs come up. So I think that we're still learning, like let's really be intentional about this, because you have to be super intentional about this.
Yeah, it's not going to magically happen.
You will get drawn to all
like,
the other things before you get drawn to using money like God would use it.
Yeah, because we so easily just get distracted by the things of this world.
Yep.
Like there's a lot of good, pleasurable things that you can enjoy in this world out there that can suck all your finances out very quickly.
Oh yeah.
Well, and in and of themselves,
And if you're just, like I said, if we don't actually bring that under a daily kind of a view of like, okay, we're actually not, like, I'm not the owner of my finances, plain and simple. And that's where I think like when you're in the single life aspect, it's a lot easier because like you literally see that paycheck hit the bank account like every 2 weeks or whatever, and you're just, and you easily in your mind that trigger happens of like, okay, I just earned my thing, I got my bills taken care of, like we said, and now I can enjoy this, and this.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, but even in that aspect, yes, it gets more complicated once you get into a partnership and a marriage and everything. But even in that aspect, like, can you actually get to the point of viewing those finances and those resources as not yours?
Yeah.
And I think that, along with being active in budgeting, is really the starting point to be a good steward.
Yeah. You actually have to see it as, these are not mine.
Yeah.
So we're going to do another episode talking about stewardship and in some different aspects of life. Cause I think there's just a lot here, but, as we kind of close in on the rest of this money conversation, I think I'd like to say that we know the word generous when, like, there's a verse in the Bible that talks about, let the thief no longer steal, but become generous. So the essence of becoming holy and turning away from sin for a thief is not that he just stops stealing.
Right.
It is when he learns to become generous, because that's really when the root of the problem with stealing is greed.
Yeah.
And he can still be greedy even if he's just not stealing from people, but he's definitely not greedy when he is giving, when he is looking to give things away.
Right.
And so I think that's like, for us, when we're thinking about becoming good stewards, specifically with money, ask yourself, are you not just like ready to give stuff away? Are you not just willing, but do you almost like, even when no one would expect you to be generous or give something away, even when nobody would fault you, even when it doesn't even seem like a big need or something, would you still like, are you still looking for it? Are you and your spouse like ready to just be like, you know what, this seems like a need, let's do it, let's go for it. Like Andrew said, if you don't view your money as your own and as your family's, if you view it as like God has given you this to channel into different, areas of life, then it's a lot easier to do that. And it also has to be paired with you trusting God to provide. You have to trust that God will replace that. Whatever you give away, you have to trust that he can, make the ends meet and take care of all the logistics. But what else do you think, Jeremy, about the difference between how you look at stewardship now, specifically maybe with having a son,
Well, I think, and part of me wants to sit there and say, I'm a saver by nature. I just, the way I am. Like, and the fact of
Jeremy just called himself a savior.
a saver.
Oh, my bad.
One who saves.
One who saves. Gotcha.
So it's very difficult for me.
That's
to
also
sit
the
there and say-
definition of savior.
I was like, I didn't really explain much.
That's
but-
also what savior means. Yeah.
Well, someone who saves.
All right. Jeremy is
more
one who
to,
saves.
more
But related
related
to
to saving than
finances.
spending.
Yeah.
We'll go that
Gotcha.
route.
I'm with you.
We're talking
So-
money.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm learning, man. Like, hey, like being the good steward is also putting some money away, but also saying, hey, this month we're not gonna be able to save necessarily because we had these things come up that we need to take care of, either for our son or like clothes, like kids grow out of clothes.
That's been big for
and like
us,
thankfully,
too.
like Faith has found ways like buying cheaper clothes, like Facebook Market and stuff. You can find a bunch of good stuff on pretty like bags of clothes or stuff like that.
Recco.
Yeah, look for a lot of things on there, but being able to sit there and say part of being a good steward, especially with family, is being willingly when it's not what you're good at or where you need to grow in with generosity. It's like, hey, being generous to my wife and son, like sometimes like, hey, a date night, we have to do it. We enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm not prioritizing it. I'm not being a good steward of my time or my money if I'm not building into my wife and what she wants and needs, and even time together, or time with my son. And also that means part of being a good steward and say, hey, I make an overly absorbed amount of money. Maybe it's not making that much money and getting a different job that enables me to have more time.
Yeah.
Which doesn't fit into what we might categorize as being a good steward, but sometimes you need a bigger picture or a different picture.
Yeah. Well, I think we did a good job.
I think that was pretty good.
Yeah. We're going to talk some more about stewardship, specifically how it relates to like time and skills and kind of the rest of life outside of money. But for now, I think this has been episode 18. This is one of our, I like this. I'm cutting it off a little early because I'm
really
liking this trim, this like nice trim episode. So, you know what, if the next one goes well, maybe we'll even have episodes in back-to-back weeks. Whoa. Break the mold a little bit.
Don't count on it all the time. But
Yeah. We're closing in on, as we said in our last episode, a bit of a holiday break. So please get your recommendations and suggestions to us of like questions and topics and stuff. Because we want to do a listener supplied question episode before the holidays. So those that will come up faster than you think. So go ahead, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, email, 3brotherstalking@gmail.com, the number 3, then the words brothers talking at Gmail. Facebook, we're easy to find. And we will, does anybody have a reco? Quick reco?
Take that as a no.
All right. Great Lakes Brewing Company Oktoberfest, because that's what's in my hand.
I'm having North High,
So
they're pretty good too.
Both good.
Yeah.
All right.
Shoots.
All right. We'll be
We had
right
three
back.
different beers
It's
right
true, we
now.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All from my fridge.
All from Andrew's fridge. He's been a good steward.
That's my steward.
Your
Yeah.
resources.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. was
Episode 18 in the books. We'll be back with episode 19. And sponsored again by Dave Ramsey. Not really. If we were, our equipment would be way nicer.
Sponsored by Jeremy's Gym for Muscles.
There we go. Officially sponsored.
Sure, it's coming.
LLC.
LLC. All right. Well, we'll be back next time, and we will see you guys
See ya.
next time.